Hello, and welcome to another video course for the Miraf SongBook program. In today's episode, we will look at the program's settings, data backup, and discuss some additional features. So, let's get started. The basic program settings are done in this Program tab. Here, we have several options. I'll start by mentioning the less important ones. In this lower section, you will find some links. There are direct links to our website, manuals, news, Facebook page, YouTube channel, and the Android version download. An important feature here is the Verify New Versions. When you click this icon, the program will show whether a new version is available for download on the website, and you can download it if needed. How to perform an upgrade is covered in a separate video. So, you can check for the latest version here. The program also checks for the latest version during startup program, so you'll be notified if a new version is released. Next, we have a very important tab, the tag list. Here, all the tags you can use in the program are described in detail, including both standard and paired tags. I definitely recommend this document. Another important tab is the keyboard shortcuts and MIDI control. As mentioned in previous video courses, you can control the program using both keyboard shortcuts and MIDI commands. Here, you'll find all the keyboard shortcuts that can be used in the program. This section lists all the MIDI instructions available for use. There is also remote control, which is covered in a separate video course. Now, let's move on to the program settings. First, let's look at this Settings tab. On this card, you'll find all the settings you can configure in the program that are not related to appearance. Appearance settings have their own configuration, but these are just program-related settings. At the top, you can enable and disable columns you want to see in the database. In the database, you have several columns that are displayed by default, and you can enable or disable the columns you want to see, as well as assign custom names to them. I'll fill something out as an example, save it. When I restart the program, you can see the columns now have names. I want to remove all columns or add them all back. I can use these buttons. We can also set colors here. The first is the database row color, followed by the export-import module row color, floating panel color, selected rows in the playlist color, chord editor color, and selection color. You can also check the option for the program to remember your window layout. It's important to enable this. Then, there's the option to show the floating panel in training mode, and whether the panel should appear only when you scroll to the bottom. There's also a separate video on this topic. Additionally, you can set how many seconds the floating panel will appear, and font sizes in edit mode. For example, I'll set a larger font size, save it, and switch to edit mode. Now, you can see that the font is much larger in edit mode. You can also configure what to export during batch printing. This is discussed in the video about printing and the print module. In training mode, you can set margins and whether to display a clock in full screen mode. Here, you can set the default parameters for the fast scroll, how many pixels to scroll, and the interval. Another very important tab is calibration. The program can run on any Windows device with different resolutions, so the behavior and display may vary across devices. For example, based on the font scaling settings or your screen resolution. In this calibration section, you can adjust the display. Ideally, set it to automatic, which is the default value, but if this value doesn't work for you and the text isn't displayed correctly, you can either disable calibration entirely or adjust it to a smaller percentage to fit the text. Change this value only if the display of your songs isn't optimal. You can also set up a link to an external editor, which launches when you click this icon. You have two paths to choose from, which is useful if the program is installed differently on each computer and you use a flash drive to transfer the program. You can also set a virtual keyboard by specifying the path to an .x file. When I click this icon, the on-screen keyboard will launch, and I can type normally. You can also set predefined tags separated by commas, which appear in edit mode. These are pre-configured tags that you can use for text insertion. This icon resets everything to the original settings, and you can choose the language the program uses here. You can also choose whether to show the song title and artist in practice mode, and another important option: whether the zoom should always reset to 100% when a new song is selected, or if the last zoom setting should be remembered. Save the database sorted by ID, or keep the current sorting. You can also enable large chord images in practice mode. I'll enable this, save it, and choose to display chords. Now, you can see the large chord images. When I disable this option and set them to small again, the images are smaller. In the program, you have the option to disable certain chords, for example, those well-known ones that you don't want to use because you are already familiar with them. However, with this option, you can force all chord images to be displayed. Next, we have database saving, which we have already discussed. You can set up temporary database saving here and choose the interval after which the program will save the database. You can also decide whether, upon closing the program, it should delete all these temporary databases or keep them. This option allows you to use the spacebar to either stop audio files or simulate a pause. You have two choices. You can choose to include the song order in the export of the song list and to display active lines in the rating mode. This option specifies that when sorting or arranging songs in the database, the program should remember the current line you are on and adjust the sorting accordingly so that you always stay on the selected line. We have the option of choosing the metronome mode, either automatic based on the operating system or selecting between older and newer versions of drivers for the operating system. Change this setting only if you experience issues with the metronome not playing, and try setting either the newer or older drivers. You can also enable auto-correction functions for automatic scrolling. If this is not checked, the automatic scrolling of text will run constantly. If you check this, a calibration function will be added to further adjust the speed. You can set a coefficient for automatic scrolling, which is important because you may have multiple devices with different resolutions, so automatic scrolling may behave differently on each one. To avoid having to constantly adjust this on every computer, you only need to set this coefficient. The program will then automatically adjust the scrolling speed according to this coefficient, so your songs will be set the same across all devices, but they may scroll slightly faster or slower depending on your display size. Here, we have various options for full screen mode, which we have covered in a separate video, including the option to start automatically in full screen mode. You can check here to remove unused space in practice mode. This is a rather interesting feature, which I will demonstrate. When I switch to this song, set one column, and then enable this option, you will see that unnecessary parts are removed, and only the entire song is displayed without large margins. You can also disable automatic screen sleep here or allow playlist manipulation. We discussed this in the video about playlists, including playlist coloring and setting its colors. There is a dedicated video for that. Then, we have song loading from a preview, which is quite complicated and recommended only for advanced users, though it has significant benefits. If I save it like this, and look at this song, you will see that it currently has a black border, meaning the song is always loaded from scratch, and the program needs to recalculate this editing mode and adjust the appearance in practice mode. However, if the song contains many images, texts, or chords, loading it may take a long time. Therefore, we offer the option to load songs from a so-called preview, which will load them very quickly. You can do this by enabling the Allow Loading Songs from Preview option and saving it. Nothing will change at the moment, except that the program has already created a preview for the song in the background. When you then switch to another song, it will also be outlined in black, but if you return to the previous one, you will see that it is outlined in red and loaded very quickly. The same goes for switching back to this one, which is also outlined in red and loads very quickly. This means that the songs are no longer loaded from the original edit mode but from a pre-prepared calculated file, making the loading much faster. The disadvantage is that in this preview mode, you do not have print preview or karaoke available, as the focus is solely on loading the song quickly. For each song you click on, a preview is calculated first, and when you return to it later, it is loaded from the preview. However, be aware that if you make a major edit, you may still see the old preview, so you need to click on the song again or use the refresh button here to update. You can also do this for the entire database. If I choose this tab and select Quickly Load All Previews for the entire database, the program will click through all the songs from the first to the last, calculating previews for each. I will try this now. The program will take a moment to go through each song and calculate the previews in advance. Now that it has finished, you can see that all the songs are marked in red, and look how quickly they switch. Very fast and smooth switching. Of course, you can also delete these previews. We have this button here to delete song previews, and then the songs will need to be manually loaded first, and only then will the automatic previews be displayed again. I'll turn this off now, and let's move on. You can also enable or disable certain messages that appear in the bottom panels here, such as informational messages. If you don't use the karaoke mode, you can disable it here, which will speed up song loading slightly, as not every user needs karaoke. This option lets you enable or disable quick insertion of chords and tags. When I have it enabled and look in the Edit tab, Editing Mode, I can see quick chord insertion. We discussed this in the editing module. I can also create or disable this panel, and then there will be no panel in editing mode. Some people may find this feature useful, while others may not, so each user can choose to enable or disable the panel. I'll turn it back on now, and you can see that it's visible again. Another option is that when you search for songs, the program can automatically jump to the song it finds and directly highlight it in the song list. Let's demonstrate this. I have this option enabled, so when I search for good songs, the cursor immediately jumps to the matching field, and if I press enter, the song is selected right away. When I move up or down with the arrow key, it immediately jumps to the next song. If I disable this option, the song is still found, but the cursor remains in the search box, preventing me from navigating the list. This option is useful for faster searching, and it's good for users to try it out. The last tab we have here is for enabling debug mode, which you should only use when troubleshooting an issue with technical support. When activated, the program logs more detailed operations into a file, which can be used to analyze any problems. Otherwise, leave this mode off. I'll also mention one other feature. Each song in the database has a unique identifier. When I open the song editor, you can see this unique number. This ID is used for sorting in your database and serves only for identifying songs. It's a unique code stored in your database, and every song has its own code. However, if you duplicate a song into another database and then bring it back, you might end up with duplicate IDs for several songs. This is generally not a problem in the Windows version, but it can cause issues in the Android version and affect features like playlists. Therefore, it's advisable to eliminate duplicate IDs. To resolve this, there are two options. Change the internal ID for selected songs or update the ID for all songs in the database. Doing this will generate a new ID for each song, but if the song is linked to playlists, those playlists may stop functioning, as they refer to the old ID. It's not recommended to change IDs unless necessary, such as when dealing with duplicate IDs. In the Settings tab, we also have options for configuring the sound card, which was discussed in the audio player module. Here, you can set up playback for your audio files, MIDI files, or MIDI instructions, which will be covered in another video tutorial. The next tab concerns colors. You can change the program's color scheme, choose from preset colors, or decide whether tables will share the same color as the background. Any changes will take effect after restarting the program. A very important tab is the backup settings. The program notes that this is a settings backup, not a data backup. You can save all the configurations we've discussed to a file. It's a good practice to do this before upgrading the program to a new version, allowing you to restore your settings afterward. To back up, I'll select a folder and save. The program confirms that the settings were saved. I can then restore these settings later by choosing Restore Data from Settings. The program will restart after loading the settings. The Backup tab is essential for data backup within the program. Here, you specify where backups will be stored and can choose to back up data before starting or after exiting the program. It's wise to set a backup strategy, such as backing up data before program launch or upon exit. You can also back up manually. Here, I recommend saving backups to an external drive for safekeeping in case of primary disk failure. Now, I'll run the backup. The program completed the backup to the specified path. I can include audio files, images, playlists, MIDI files, and layouts in the backup. If I enable backup at startup, the program will automatically back up before launching. Regular backups are highly recommended to prevent data loss, especially on external drives or additional copies. Here we can select all items at once or remove them all. Here you can see the approximate size of the backup. Now we will make a backup of the databases. We'll make one more backup, but we'll select more items now. Here you can see the result of the backup. We recommend always backing up and storing in a safe place. Most of the tabs in the top menu have been covered in previous tutorials, but to recap, this section is related to databases. This part concerns individual songs, exports, and imports. Here we have playlists, and this area covers appearance, zoom settings, and printing options. Other tabs include transposition, music theory, capo usage, and program controls, which can also be accessed from the sidebar. To exit the program, use either this icon or the Exit option in the Program tab. Thank you for watching and goodbye.